That's my problem. But usually, you know what I say. We already spend this money, and really, we're looking for somebody to be able to help us out of a jam. Or we will put your name on the credits. I'm like, I don't pass that. I don't
Yep.
mean to sound, like I am it, because I'm not it. But the fact is I know what I'm worth. I know
Yep.
what my team is worth. I know what my industry is worth, and we have to
Yeah.
stand up for that, right?
Welcome back to another episode of the Pilots of the Caribbean podcast, where we talk about all things drones and how they're being used in the Caribbean. If you are in the drone industry in the region, my guest today needs no introduction. If you are not, let me introduce you to Mr. David Lewis. Enjoy. David, thank you very much for joining me in this episode of the Pilots of the Caribbean podcast. How are you going, man?
Pretty good, man. Actually, quite happy to be here. I've been following you for a little while, so now we're going to see where we end up this afternoon.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. And actually, you are somebody who has been coming up in a lot of my conversations. But for the persons that aren't familiar with you, how about you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience for me?
I'm not too sure the people you're talking to first thing, so I don't know if my name is Mud or I'm doing something right in the industry. As you said, I'm David Lewis. I am I guess you would call me a professional drone pilot right now, consultant drone pilot. I've been in the industry for well over 14 years, from the beginning stages of building as a hobbyist UAVs, multi-rotor aircraft, and then later on, 2-3 years after I started a business called Caribbean Aerial Photography, which expanded into a multitude of different areas within the UAV industry. And within, I'm going to use now broad terms, the drone industry,
All right.
right?
So you say you're in the drone industry for more than, industry for more than 14 years, but what was the foundation to get into the RC world in the first place?
Well, I'm pretty much a avid RC fan. I grew up. I think I had my first RC car when I was about 13. And I'm going to caveat that here by saying I was unprivileged. I had to work really hard to be able to get everything that I have achieved, right? I didn't come up with a lot of money, so I would go and sell mangoes and whatever was around, gooseberries, golden apples, whatever. Save my money, and I bought my first RC car when I was about 13 or 14, and I stuck with the RC cars for quite a while, and was competitive within Barbados, helped revitalize the RC racing and such here. And then, like many other things, it goes to one side. I had school, I had a whole bunch of different things going on. Then, I decided, well, I needed something a little less competitive. So I started RC planes. And in that area, the hobby was fantastic. I learned how to build and design my own planes in balsa, and I did. And I really enjoyed that. And after achieving what I thought was enough in aerobatics, and I really wasn't going for competition, I was just doing it for fun with a whole bunch of buddies of mine. We had a squadron, right? We used to fly formation flights for fun and so on. And then I said, wonder what it'd be like to fly helicopters. So I hunted around Barbados all over, and I kept hearing names like Chas Jordan had one and Robert Tempro. These are the old stalwarts that were in the industry as well. Because with helis, either you love them or you want nothing to do with them,
Mm-hmm.
right? They are only there because, or I should say, they're only capable to fly, according to my model friends who are enthusiasts, because they're that ugly. So there was really no love there. And I found a heli. I cannot tell you how much rust was on it. I had to strip it all down and rebuild it. And at the time, there was no microelectronics. They were still using mechanical gyros, so you would hear it swing up and all of that. And
Jeez.
I would literally stand up behind a helicopter and take it off the ground, go fly 6 feet and land it, fly 6 feet and land it until I could really grasp the controls because there's nobody to teach you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until I was able to fly from one end of the field to the other end of the field, and then I felt confident of flying it above 10 feet off of the ground. So the whole time we were flying on the ground effect. So then when you're flying above the ground, that time now, everything's changed. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh, and there was a crash or two. And anyway, it led on, and I went through the whole helicopter phase. I was a sport flyer with helis. Never going into any of the wonderful, crazy stuff like the chaos. I would do a few TikToks and stuff, but most of the maneuvers I would do at that stage, they were um, maneuvers that a conventional fixed wing aircraft could do.
Okay.
Anyway, I met quite a few people. Um, a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, Pierre Catlin. Uh, who is an aircraft engineer. He's an amazing guy. And then I had a Canadian guy. His name was Perry Dutchkevish. Right? We just call him Perry because the rest of it is too hard for me to remember all the time. And he and his wife they would come to Barbados every year and they would bring a plane with them because he's an avid sport flyer as well. So we kind of meshed real well. And then we started designing quadcopters because we all had that enthusiasm in us. And
Mm-hmm.
we would use the original NAS, DJI NAS, and we would create the skeleton, as it were, the body and everything. And yeah, and that's where it started. I started with a GoPro Hero 1. That's how far you're going back. Okay.
Yeah, boy.
And you learn from your mistakes because your first job was you put it up in the air, you take pictures, and then when you land it and you're doing the post processing, you have to choose the best picture amongst 12 or 1500 pictures because you got to take in pictures over and over and over. There's no remote. So you went from that, and then we learned that DJI was putting out much more resilient units, more consumer friendly, more capable units. So at that point, we kind of all made the decision, look, the mistakes that we've learned with our own build and design, right? These guys are eons ahead of us. So let's go with this company. And DJ has been the leader since, and is one of my preferences up to today when it comes to prosumer and consumer drones,
Okay.
UAVs. Um, so we went through the whole area. Pierre and Perry have been stalwarts in my business setup. They're amazing pilots. They're amazing friends. And you know, one thing I'll say right through my entire experience so far, I have to say that I have had great people on board as team because me one, I could not do any of that. There were times where I just wanted to take it and throw it one side, especially after you just spent $2,000-3,000 in equipment and
Mm-hmm.
it came out the sky and crashed into the sea, and all you want to do is
Yeah.
cry.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you work hard for your money, huh? So when you see it go down into the sea and then you gotta strip off all your clothes, bury your underwear, and you gotta swim out and go get that because you know that the controller is done, you know the speed controllers are done. Chances are
Mm-hmm.
you'll be able to use the motors and so on again. You know you don't want to buy it or rebuild an entire frame because you gotta import it, which means more money, more time,
Yeah.
time down. You know that the GoPro has gone through the edits because there are no housings, right, at that time, right? So you went through all of this really some of these really hard emotional and financial times, and those guys were there to really keep you in line and encourage you to go forward. And through that, we've grown in the industry, through the Phantom 2, the Vision 2 Plus, right? The first Mavic Pro. Then they had the little small rinky dinky units that, you know, you bought one and then you realize, Oh Lord, that money could have been much better spent on something else,
Yeah.
right? Um, and you really learn from those experiences as well. So we now are on our prosumers. We've been working with obviously the much better quality cameras
Hmm.
and imaging and the Mavic 2s. Then we went on to I actually have a selection of all the Mavic 3s because I'm involved in many different industries.
Right.
Now I just recently got a Mavic 4. I'm loving it. Not that there's a lot of great improvement in my opinion so far with the camera quality, but the battery life is amazing, and the range. Oh my god, the range is fantabulous. All right. Um, so that is where we are in photography and videography, but
Right.
we are also in other industries as well. So, in the word drone can refer to many different areas, not just UAV or RPAS. Okay,
Right.
we also specialize in underwater rovers. We do a lot of inspections on pipelines, look for anchor ropes, identification of issues. Um, yeah, we've done we did some post barrel work for
Hurricane barrel.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
that was we identified quite a few sunken boats at that time, and yeah, with the rover it really made things um much better, and also the combination of the use of above water and below water um, really help cement in how catastrophic it was in the fishing community of which it was most affected, right? That
Right.
we were part. And then we are, because of my RC car aspects, we also have been designing a rover that will do LiDAR. And we're going to use that for things like on a cellar or basement type cellar type
Okay.
inspections, or even in ceilings and stuff. We do that as well. And in the last year, one of my clients, well, they reached out to us. They bought T40, the
Hmm.
DJI
Agas.
Agras T40, and we've
Right.
been operating that as a team for the last year. We just recently wrapped up our contract with them. And subject to that, a couple of other farmers have now co-opted and bought T50 that we're going to be helping them set up their processes.
Okay.
So I mean, and that team on its own, because, you know, you really can't use someone that is accustomed to flying a Mavic or a, a Mini 3 or 4, and you're going to take them and throw them into a T40 or T50.
Hmm.
I just let you know that would be absolute rubbish. If somebody wants to do that, it's insanity. They do not have the experience to do that. Well, if they don't hurt themselves, they'll be lucky. If they don't hurt someone else, they will be
Yeah.
lucky. And if they are going to be efficient, they are going to have a serious learning curve.
Hmm.
So we've worked our way through from the Mavics, also into the M300s, now the 350s. So we've been flying the Inspire 2 for the longest time. We were one of the first people to have Inspire 2s in Barbados. We used to work with the car racing and dragging and all of that because of the speed and
Hmm.
resilience of the unit. I will say though, I don't regret it because I have a lot of fun flying the Inspire 2. However, return on investment after 6 years is still quite questionable, right?
Right.
All right. So that's a specialty unit that when
Hmm.
we work with HBO, when we were working with HBO, that's the unit that we would be flying.
What
Right.
sensei flying on it?
That what did we use now? Lord, that was a good few years ago. That was a Panasonic. It was the is I can't remember, honestly. I don't remember the camera. I actually did not own the camera. There's
Okay.
one thing to own the unit. I chose not to own the camera. I decided I was gonna just rent whatever they wanted and the lens
Mm-hmm.
kit with
Okay.
it.
Yeah, that makes
And I
sense.
don't regret that either because that would have been another what 8,000, 9,000 US that would have been sunk into it,
Yep.
and it hardly gets used, right? So there's a method to my madness, and I don't have to buy everything, right?
You mentioned the rover earlier. This is something that you're designing and building in-house?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
we will use a chassis. I have a really great guy, Daniel Small. He is on our team. Daniel is, I would call him an automotive engineer and fabricator.
Yeah.
Great friend. He came up. He came back from China. He had a scholarship from China. Came back to Barbados. And Pierre and Daniel, they're a family. And he said, David, I really, my workload is now like shooting off in my career as well. I would like to bring on this youngster, and let's see where he's at. Funny
Yeah.
enough, I came across the original footage that he did for me the other day compared to where he is now in his career as a drone pilot. And my God, it is phenomenal. And that's what I want. That's all I ask for anybody that I either teach or I mentor or anything like that. I want to see enthusiasm and I want to see great improvement over time.
Mhm.
Everybody can fly a drone, but not everybody can fly a drone properly,
Yep.
efficiently,
Yeah.
and
That's very true.
for the specific reason that you need to be able to fly that drone.
And that's very true. And I think you have been very successful in that because some of the persons that I would have had conversations with about it where your name came up. And a lot of them credit you would be the person that first introduced them to, or they would have gotten their first units from you. And like the first name that comes to mind is Phil Archer.
Okay.
Yeah, Phil say, yeah, David is the man who I get my first drone from. And he was so excited about it and the potential for it going forward from there. So I think you've been very successful at that mission.
I have to be humble because I'm not a big fandango kind of guy. If I can help, I do what I gotta do. In
Right.
terms of I maybe I'm my worst enemy and I don't implore all the technology that is out there. I don't do a million Instagrams and TikToks and have a big web page and all of that because it is a profession, but it's a hobby profession, right?
Mm,
And I'm always cognizant of the fact that um, I don't want to say my primary because I love both of them. I'm a pharmacist by profession. I own my
yeah, I was
own
going to ask you
business,
about that.
right? And it's it started with enthusiasm to learn to fly and what to fly, and then the design, and then out of that, I had a birth of creativity. And within that creativity, that gives me a sense of satisfaction that I don't think anybody can really appreciate it unless they're a creator themselves,
Yeah.
right?
But
And I kind of thrive off of trying to think outside the box.
Before we continue, special announcement. We have just launched the Pilots of the Caribbean podcast drone pilot checklist. So, whether you are a hobbyist or a commercial operator, this checklist will make sure that you have everything in order before you take off for your next flight. Now, to get the checklist, there's a link in the description, and you sign up and you will receive it in your email. Now, we are also announcing that we'll be launching the Pilots of the Caribbean podcast newsletter in a couple of weeks. So that's coming soon. And once you sign up to receive the checklist, you'll automatically be added to the newsletter listing. Or if you want to sign up for the newsletter, you can head over to the website, pilotsofthecaribbeanpod.com. And there's a form on the homepage where you could submit your name and your email address and you'll be added to the newsletter list. And I guarantee you, you're not going to want to miss out on that because we have some really good stuff coming at you. So, checklist, link in the description. If you just want to sign up for the newsletter, head over to the website, and sign up now. Now back to it.
But how do you manage? Because I mean, being a pharmacist and being a drone operator, I don't know you could get any further apart in terms of the relationship that they would have with each other. So how you manage, your time and then keeping up with the technology on both sides and the advancement in both industries. How you managing that, way?
You know how people describe their learning curve, and they'll describe it on one graph,
Right.
right? I describe my learning curve on two graphs, straight up. I don't stop. As a consultant professional pharmacist, I own my own business as well. And because of that, I have a certain amount of flexibility, but I always have to be cognizant of how much time I can dedicate to any one thing.
Mhm.
And with my pharmacy, I do 3 days of continuing education, constantly reading, reading, reading. 2 days right now I give towards the UAV industry, and or the drone industry. Um, and then I also have to maintain the fact that I have a wonderful family. My wife and children are amazing. They're brilliant, right? And without them, there'll be no David Lewis. There'll be no structure in my life. Okay. And yeah, it's a hard balance. And it's a hard balance with some of the other things I do as well.
Mhm.
Because um we have I have a partner in business, and we launched about what 2.5 years ago another company called Regional UAV Services. And
Okay.
within the scope of that part of the business, we do training,
Mhm.
and we do recommendations and sourcing of technology.
So it's like a
And
consultancy business.
correct, but
Yeah.
we would also source and provide the drones,
Okay.
uh, as well as doing the teaching. Okay, um, and again, there's balance in that. And I also
Mhm.
lead pharmacist in the Barbados Field Medical Facility as it relates to a responsibility for post disaster um, services. And that is in association with the Barbados Defense Force. So
Okay.
I'm part of that as well. And I work with other UAV teams to assist in post disaster assessments and analytics and
Okay.
that
All right.
that type of thing. So it's just, could I make it a full time job? Very easily. But again, Alan, I am who I am, and I try to give everybody opportunities. I have wonderful people again that work with me. The same Daniel Small works with me still. I have Fabian Lewis, no family whatsoever. I have Jefferson Graham. I got Bruce, Eric Bruce. I have Dwayne Durant. I have Mark Griffith. I have a whole bunch of guys, and these guys are actually, and more, that just actually keep me in the industry to be able to go further.
Mhm.
So we do securities, we do um, thermal assessments, we do search and rescues, and we have to practice all of these things too, right?
Yeah.
And you draw on the experience or the talents of each individual. So when I know that I want to do a search and rescue, I know the guys that I can call to that group, and I know
Right.
that they are on the ball. They know what they're looking for, right? And they're enthusiastic to be able to go out there. And thank God we don't do many search and rescues for human beings, right?
Mhm.
Most of our search and rescues are for expensive dogs and horses and that sort of stuff, right? And, and then when I have cinematography, I have Kevin Simon and Daniel, right? And Fabian is there as tech most of the time, but he's perfectly capable. All of them offer fantastic cinematography service. And I sometimes feel bad because I go there and I'm like, I want to fly. And they're like, David, leave us alone. Okay, we got it. Right. So, you know, that's the great thing. and they're doing something that they like as well, and they're growing with it, and they're getting paid to do it too. Okay. And that's a very important part of this whole process, because I find that UAV operators in the Caribbean do not know what they're worth,
Yep, most definitely.
right? I have to say, I'm going to be very blunt here. If you are a UAV operator and you're operating above board, that means that you put in your time, you're certified, you have insurance, and you're doing the right thing by the authorities. You're doing your applications to civil aviation or your prime minister's office, whatever the process is in your particular territory, right? So you know that, let's say, you cannot fly for less than 200 US an hour. This
Right.
basic cinematography,
Mm-hmm.
right? That would be, and to me, that would be the very lowest level. Even if I was flying Mavic Mini 4 Pro, or even now the 5, the cost of being able to do these things, the cost of business is high enough that you need to charge a battery for the Mavic 4 Pro now. It's ridiculous. By the time it gets into Barbados, it's over 500, nearly 600 Barbados dollars. How could you do a job and not charge accordingly?
Yeah.
Okay. So we go out there and we say, this is the cost of our services. And man, your client comes us, you said, man, David, man, sorry, brother. I can't afford that. A man just come around the corner and tell me that he could do the same thing for 200 Barbados dollars, another 100 US. Well, sorry. Go along. Because I'm not wasting money, right, on equipment now that something could go wrong, a bird could hit it, whatever. Okay. And I have all these overheads. So every time I leave my hangar, as it were, I have to be paid accordingly.
Yep.
And those guys who are operating under this guerrilla um, platform, they're making it bad for everybody else,
Yeah.
right?
Especially when something
It,
bad happens to them.
and that's the other thing. So I had a client the other day. I've had that client for like 3, 4 years. And we have a long term contractual agreement. Handshake, yes, but still a contract. Let's
Mm-hmm.
say I was charging them 400, 200 US dollars to go and do each job. One day I get a phone call. Hey, David, just letting you know we've decided that we no longer are going to be utilizing your services. So I said, okay, but we have a rapport. How come? You know, oh,
Mm-hmm.
we found somebody cheaper to be able to do the work. I was like, well, that's favorable. I hope that they're doing the right thing. And if you let's assume that they were in real estate, and nothing goes wrong, you know. So part ways. My doors are always open. I get a phone call about 4 days later. David, you think you could come and do that job that we were talking about? I said, but you had somebody do it. What happened? Well, that it really didn't work out the way we wanted. I said, no problem. It's $600, 300
Mm-hmm.
US, right? I'm just saying, you know,
Yeah.
not the true figures for truth and fact, but
Yeah.
uh, they're like, but David, that's not what our agreement is. I said, I know what I'm worth and I know what my agreement was. You broke the agreement and we can talk after this job is finished,
Mm-hmm.
right? And many times that's the case. They go with somebody else, they screw it up, and then we are asked to fix it.
Now you have to pay for that job twice.
That's my problem. But usually, you know what I say. We already spend this money, and really, we're looking for somebody to be able to help us out of a jam. Or we will put your name on the credits. I'm like, I don't pass that. I don't
Yep.
mean to sound, like I am it, because I'm not it. But the fact is I know what I'm worth. I know
Yep.
what my team is worth. I know what my industry is worth, and we have to
Yeah.
stand up for that, right? And I mean, I don't know about you, but I can ask you a question now.
Mm-hmm.
What what is Trinidad doing with all these people who are not doing what they're supposed to do?
As far as I'm aware, publicly, not a lot. So we do have a lot of operations that I don't know if they're fully above board, especially when it comes to our requirements for commercial operations, and I believe it's similar in a lot of ways to Barbados. Is you have to have permission from the property owner that you're flying over, and in certain areas that may
Mm-hmm.
require other permissions as well as that. So let's say the police service or the defense force, depending on the area.
Mm-hmm.
Insurance. And insurance for a lot of persons is not the easiest thing to get because they don't have registered companies to cover your drone business
Or
to get
competency.
insurance for your company.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have any sort of formalized licensing or system. So basically, you just get the approvals from civil aviation once you provide all the documentation that you're required to have. But
Right.
we do have a problem, and especially in the media space, because we don't have a lot of operators just outside of media. And the ones that you do have are more formalized. So you will have, they usually have everything that is needed to perform the operations. But in the media space, you find it's kind of a race to the bottom in that people just tend to undercut somebody because everybody is trying to get a job done kind of thing. Now, there are some very professional guys that would hold their pricing and know what they're worth and not going lower than this for anybody because we know what we're doing. If you want to go with
Mm-hmm.
him, well, that's you, but I know what I could do here.
Right.
But you do find a lot of, and it's because, a mini cheap. So everybody have a mini, everybody could have a A3S or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
you press record and you can shoot a video, but that don't necessarily mean that you're a photographer, you're a videographer, you know what you're looking for, you know how to compose, that the
Exactly.
guys who are professionals in this industry and charge accordingly, that they could do.
Right. So and what happens is that Peter pay for Paul and Paul pay for all.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, because a
So
lot of things
you
that
get
we,
painted with the same brush
Mhm.
when the crap hits the fan.
Yep. Yeah,
And
because
that
now you
is
have,
where Barbados is where it is now.
yeah. So
And Trinidad too.
yeah, because we have the thing in Norway, you see a lot of drone stories come up where you might see a drone flying in, let's say, a neighborhood, and people automatically think is criminals scoping out a house because of our crime situation. And we have a
Yeah.
issue where persons have been using drones to drop contraband into the prison facilities and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times their first reaction to a drone is negative. And that is
Mm-hmm.
because somebody messed up that, that conception for somebody else.
Yeah.
So,
So it's all about securities now and
yep.
privacy and so on. And those two topics right there is exactly what the security services need to be able to put more clamps down on people.
Mm-hmm.
Now we know that being able to enforce is a difficult thing, but
Yeah.
unlike Trinidad, you have had legislation since 2016.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
because when I actually came down to teach in Trinidad in well, it was about a year and a half ago to do some work with post disaster assessments and stuff like that.
All right.
Um, y'all had legislation, and I was like, "Damn, this is great." But you have the problem, like other Caribbean countries, including Barbados, that enforcement is not possible, right?
That, along with the fact that a lot of things that are mentioned in the legislation aren't in operation.
There you go.
So, like,
But
the
the fact that
legislation
you do
speaks to
have
a
it,
license.
right?
Yes, we
But the
have
fact
it. Yes.
that you do have it means that you have the skeleton, and you can now add the muscles and the tendons and everything that goes in the skin and everything to make up the entire body. Here in
You see, and that's the
Barbados,
next problem. I don't think it has changed very much since then, despite how much the technology has advanced since
well, let me put it this way. As of I think this month, I stand corrected sometime this month, Canada is enforcing now BV laws.
then. Mm-hmm.
So they have new legislation, and we got to keep up with that. I We can talk about that in a second, but what I want to make the point here that Barbados, we have, they call it regulation, but we have a code of conduct,
Right.
in my opinion, right? And there's a process now that's being kind of process formalized, but we have no legislation. We have been pussyfooting with the legislation for too long. And what it
Mhm.
is doing, it is allowing a lot of people from foreign countries to come and do work here. And
Okay.
I'm sure Trinidad has that problem as well. And I'm
Hmm.
sure that a lot of other Caribbean countries have that as well. Okay. We saw a slide that we weren't probably supposed to see, all right? Where 70% of the persons that were doing work in Barbados were foreign.
Serious. 70% you say no?
That is the slide that we were showing, whether it was true or not. That was the statistics that this organization had.
Wow. Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
Even
Hmm.
if it was 50-50, something is wrong. Because why is it that a company like mine can travel all over the world to do work or teach or within the region, and we don't have good enough or satisfactory professionals to do the work? Come on. Like Phil, we've been doing cricket since when we only had Inspire once. Okay? That's how long ago. That's what, 8 years ago. We've been
At
working in the
least, yeah.
cricket industry. Okay? So there's no need for them to bring in all these guys to fly, right? We can provide the services the same way. We're the ones that set the standard, as it were. And now they're carrying it too far,
Yeah.
right? We in the Caribbean have to start protecting our sovereignty. We want free movement, no problem. That means that we have to have standards.
Yep.
And the people that step out of line with the standards, you know what? If it cannot be patrolled, not patrol is not a word, if it cannot be protected by the people within the industry and ensuring that others do the right thing by calling names, right? Because I've got to the point in my career in the 14 years, because this is now a career as well, that if you come into my airspace and do nonsense and you are not supposed to be there, I call in names because it's now a matter of safety.
Hmm.
Isn't no, because believe you me, I have been flying in many situations and people call, man, Lewis, you doing bare foolishness. What are you doing? And you're like, what are you talking about? We're nowhere near there, right? And then like the police will come over and they'll be checking us, and we're like, look at our flight path. Everything is here. We're
Yeah.
nowhere near where you are saying we are. That is someone else in the space, right? So you have to police it yourself.
Yeah.
As a community, we need to realize if we're doing the right thing, right? When people come and do the wrong thing, you give them the choice. Could you please go and do the right thing? But if they consistently do the wrong thing, the wrong thing, wrong thing, it is just going to prove bad to our profession and our careers. So, what you think is going to happen? Government is going to come in and they're going to legislate everything that they want, that they think is necessary. And that is going to make it ever so more onerous to be able to conduct a single flight.
Pilots of the Caribbean podcast audience, October 21st and 22nd, we are headed to the largest drone show in Florida. And that is none other than Elevate UAV 2025, presented by Drone Nerds. So make sure to come out, grab your tickets, and take in the live demos. So this is not just seeing the drones on display, this is actually being able to see them in operation, talk to the manufacturers, get your questions answered, and so much more. So that's October 21st and 22nd. We head into Miami, Florida. And for the Pilots of the Caribbean podcast audience, we have a 75% discount code. That's Caribbean 75. So link in the description and get 75% off your ticket. Now, with that 75% off, I'm not saying that you have to buy a VIP ticket, but make sure you get a VIP ticket. And I will see you in Miami October 21st and 22nd, Elevate UAV 2025. Peace.
Yeah. And it already seems to be getting out of the way right now. Because we've had particularly here, we've had several changes to like the process to import a unit. So
Mm-hmm.
before you used to get permission from civil aviation, and then you just carry that to customs and you can import. Now TAT is in the process. Now I understand the reason for it because TAT are the people that control the radio waves.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of there's now a lot of separation in terms of your weight classes. And now with the weight classes, you have different requirements.
Mm-hmm.
And the TAT, I have to give them credit for it. They are generally very efficient in their process.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the things that they require now take weeks. So let's say you have to get a police certificate or a letter from the police.
Mm-hmm.
They have other things to do. So you
Yeah.
could be waiting 3-4 weeks or letter for the police and your drone sitting down in customs and now you have to pay rent on it.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah, so the processes need to be
Streamlined.
adjusted to suit the growing industry. Yes. And it
Correct.
needs to be, and again, they've tapped the credit. They have done it so that everything is online. You could submit the form and that kind of stuff. But now, if the requirement is police service, a lot of people don't even know who in the police service you have to reach out to. What's the contact for that? What's the email?
Yeah.
What they need? That
Well,
kind of stuff. How?
in Barbados, we're lucky. A lot of that is coordinated through the Prime Minister's office, right? Because it's considered defense and security,
Right.
right? And within our process, we still do have the police, the defense force, telecommunications, customs, civil aviation, right? On import.
Wow.
But all of that's coordinated within a portal because we can log
Right.
into a portal and apply for importation, whether temporary or otherwise. You're able to upload your certificate of competency, right? And that, with your experience, will allow
Mhm.
you to be able to, um, we would say, operate a little bit easier,
Right.
right? It is a problem when, in my mind, I know that you're a FAA pilot. Hey, kudos. I would do it just for the shits and kicks. But
Right.
to me, the FAA license bears no value in Barbados. And more or less not for anywhere in the Caribbean. Or
Yeah,
in
that's
that
true.
it is, I can go and learn the 160 questions or the 140 questions and not even take up a book. I can just have
Yep.
them, I can just memorize them, blup, 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 and I'm gone. Now, if you tell me that you have a FAA and you tell me that you have passed a NIST exam and you have been shown to have practical flying skills, I am
Hmm.
all for it. The only other way as an instructor that I would think would be viable as a means of proof of my ability to fly is the development of a portfolio, as how we would have a portfolio for um, our videography and photography portfolios. If
Hmm.
we're offering our services, that's the first thing that someone asks for. Okay, so if you don't have a proficiency of for actual flying, you should be able to show me a portfolio that you're doing constant work,
Yep.
right? Otherwise, I'm not entertaining you, right?
Yeah.
Because we've had people come into Barbados, they apply to fly at Carlisle Bay, which is on the southern side of the island, right? And the next thing you hear, they're doing crap up in Bridgetown, or they're doing foolishness up in the northern side of the coast, right? Which and the first thing that happens is you get a phone call. Hi, David. You know anything about these people flying in these areas? I don't know nothing.
Yeah,
I'm not the
you're
only
minding your
person
own
flying.
business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't even have a unit in the air. All my units are on the ground, locked up, and accounted for.
Hmm.
Right? But you see, this is the thing. Or you find someone, oh, I want to fly Accra Beach. Sure, fly Accra Beach. Okay, which is a lovely, long, beautiful strip of beach on Barbados, just like Carlisle Bay, right? But instead of them flying sea to land, they're flying over the people, and there are hundreds of people on the beach at about 10 feet, and they're doing 30 miles an hour. Come on,
Yeah.
that is not a sensible thing to do, right? If you've choreographed it and everybody on the beach knows that you're doing it, sure,
Yeah, that's different. Yep.
different. right? But this is the crap that we deal with here. And as such, I
Yeah.
know it's going to be a problem in the long run. It has been a problem in the long run. But give Jack his jacket. We have a bit of legislation that should soon be ready and some input um, from some of the consultants that should hopefully they take it on board so we're ready for the future, right? But the future is changing so quick, like you said. I
Correct.
mean, I was just at the annual what's it called now, the construction and design conference here in Barbados. I did a little speech there the other day, and it was to enlighten the construction industry of all the benefits of drones, with the and not just consider that as promotional material,
Right.
right? And I think it was absorbed quite well, right? Because I have quite a few contacts asking me about mapping and asking me about thermal capabilities and asking me about analysis and volumetrics, and that's the stuff that really will enhance their overall building process, as
Hmm.
well as the safety on site and the management on site. And I tell them now, you don't even have to fly. I can set up a nest with a
Yep.
Dock 3. Use
And
a
set it up and
TD4,
everything run automatically.
everything run on time. Every
Yeah.
morning you want a report when you get there, blam, all the pictures are there for you to be able to take and put into your report and send off. Automated, right? But it is another good option for us as drone operators, okay, or UAV operators, in that we have the ability to offer these services. So we will get paid for service,
Yeah.
servicing the equipment, maintaining the equipment, making sure it meets all the flight paths and so are set up. And that would also convince the powers that be in government that these things are being done properly and to standard,
Yep.
right?
Now, I want to cut in for a second because you mentioned this conference that you spoke at, but you were also a part of the Caribbean Drone Symposium earlier this year.
Yes.
All right. So I caught that one late and I wasn't able to make it. I believe it was in February, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was run by UWI. It
Yeah.
was very informative. Uh, we got a lot of information uh, in many different areas in the drone industry. Also, the environmental concepts of use and so on of drones for being
Mm.
able to identify densities of the mats of sargassum seaweed in the Caribbean. I was able, unfortunately, I was able to speak on many topics because that's the other thing in this industry, especially in small Caribbean islands, that we need to mention.
Hmm.
It is very hard to be a specialist at any, or I should say, live off of any one specialty. If I waited every day for a videography or cinematography job or a photography job, I would be poor. I would not be able to replace my units. Return on investment would never happen. So you
Yeah.
have to diversify. You have to do mapping. You have to be able to understand how to run the analysis. You have to be able to be creative in terms of what can you use your drone for? Can I look at a beach every day and at a particular time and be able to determine if the turtles came the night before, and it's much better to fly it than to walk it, all that sort of stuff, identifying nesting areas. If you can think of it, there's
Hmm.
scope for the use of a drone, whether, as I said, aerial, underwater, or online rover. So
Yeah.
why not?
Is that symposium, or do you know if it's something that will be held annually?
I have not been told as yet, but it's now coming up to the end of the year, so I can find out for you. I'm sure
Okay.
we can give you an update on that. I
Yeah.
am not an organizer. I was a keynote speaker on a couple of the areas of interest.
Okay. And actually, just this week gone here, I saw Jamaica Flying Lab put out a drone AI and some another conference that they want to have in the first week in December in Montego Bay in Jamaica.
Oh, you running up to that?
If I could make it, once the schedule allows, I would like to get it. Because I can't
Should
be
be.
going to all these things outside and not go to the ones that we have in the Caribbean.
Right. I agree. I mean, I go to Elevate. I try to go to Elevate. It's the closest one for us in Miami. It should be quite interesting this year.
You're going to elevate this year?
Trying, man. I'm not sure. I went last year. I went last year.
Serious?
Yeah.
But then I sure have you on a video clip somewhere. You know?
Well, I was. I did the. I'm interested in hyperspectrum cameras, multi-spectrum cameras.
Somebody
Uh,
fear. Matt
I- I-
Skelton,
yeah.
Centera.
Um. To be quite honest, the that is multispectra. I'm actually more interested in hyperspectra. So
Yep.
the
They have stuff for that
nitty
too.
gritty. So yeah, because I want to do a lot more for the agricultural industry and
Mm-hmm.
identification of species from the air. I want to do a little bit more research, probably with
Okay.
UWI on board on that one. That's something that I'm personally looking at.
Nice one. Well, at a plug here, the Pilots of the Caribbean has a 75% discount code for Elevate UAV 2025. Use code Caribbean75 for 75% off your ticket.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, had to
Um,
plug that one.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I would really love to go. I mean, on just 2 days, just fly in, do it, and fly
Mm-hmm.
back out. Um, I actually last week had to fly to Canada for 2 days. I went and met with one of my suppliers as well as colleagues, and I had a wonderful experience of operating and working with a group operating avatars inside a large scale warehouse,
Right.
right? Doing stock counts. I can't tell you where, but I can tell you that is the biggest warehouse that I have ever been in.
Okay.
Nowhere in the Caribbean
Mm-hmm.
has a warehouse like that. This this one will make an Amazon sorting facility look small.
Oh,
Okay,
jeez,
yeah,
that's a
and
huge
they were
warehouse
flying
then.
through for just imagine 16, 18 pallets in a row,
Mm-hmm.
and they were flying through spaces that are about 12 inches to 6 inches with the Avata counting pallets. Okay,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
so the whole concept is to try and find the missing pallets because you're
Finding
talking.
missing pallets.
Yeah, this facility is so big, it's missing pallets, right?
All right. Wow. All right. Cool. So, yeah,
Right.
man, in all of the years of experience you have, and you've seen the technology go from GoPro One, like you say, to Inspire 3 now, the
Mhm.
M400, and everything else that we're moving on to. Was the most impressive advancement you've seen in the UAV space?
As far as aircraft are concerned,
Any aspect of it?
no, you can't say any because I'm sorry. Right now, we've only looked at multi rotary aircraft, right?
Right.
I myself and Kevin, we also are avid at building fixed wing long range aircraft, right? And I think that the most exciting part of what's coming up in the whole world is this beyond visual line of sight. Okay, that's the
That's
most
that's from a
exciting.
that's from a regulatory standpoint. But in terms of the
No,
technology itself, well,
technology is
the
amazing.
tech will come with the regulation. But in terms of like okay, so let's bring it back to the okay, so multi-rotor, drone, and onboard component advancement.
I still say the DJI is way out ahead. Okay, I'm excited to be in the agricultural industry. I love it. I
Mm-hmm.
think that the Caribbean as a whole can benefit greatly from it, right? And the combination between small and large units. Um, the new 1000, I think it is, right? That lifting capacity just blows my mind.
Yeah, it's crazy.
However, however, we have now reached a point. I'm going to say this with the pilots now. Okay. Our youth are our future. I'm 50. Okay. And I'm still enthusiastic, but I have to be I can be a realist. I got another 20 years maximum. At 70
Mm-hmm.
years old, you think I want to be out in a cane field or any large area? No, I want to be sitting down in my damn office where my guys are out there. They're still enjoying themselves. They're making a living, right? But I'm worried. If you okay, you ask me what I think is the greatest thing, I'm gonna say right now, for me and the excitement that I have, it's going to be in the agricultural industry because that's
Okay.
where I see the growth.
Mm-hmm.
Where I have seen already that is oversubscribed to with a bunch of rubbish is the real estate industry. Everybody is cutthroat in the real estate industry, and
Yeah.
I'm keeping my few clients that respect me and I respect them, right? And I still give them my all. As for the others, I really don't care because they're starting to do their own thing. Fine, but they're some of the biggest problems that we have because they fly
Mm-hmm.
whatever they want, wherever they want. Um, for the securities, we do quite a bit of security, but that's not a big thing, right? The automation, the Docking 3, and the new technologies is coming out with that. That's great for full autonomy, but is it something that I'm really enthusiastic about? No, because there's very little input from me as a pilot or operator. So that just
Yeah.
leaves the agricultural industry, which are large units. You're seeing the results of your work,
Mm-hmm.
right? And as I said earlier, I am a guy that gets satisfaction from seeing the benefits of the hard work that I put into it or that my team puts into it, right? So that's my future.
What are your thoughts on drones for moving persons? So the electric person transport vehicles. So like the e-hang.
I watch them in awe and I'm frightened as shit.
You know we have them in Caribbean, right? There's one in the DR.
Yeah, I heard that. Um, and I would hate to be the civil aviation that got to deal with them.
Especially being the first
In
one.
our space, in our space, I think that there's several safety risks. If I'm flying a T-50, I know that I'm flying it in a specific area where there's minimal impact on man or animals. So the the risk assessment is really low. Okay, when I jump into an aircraft um, that has basically the same design,
Yeah.
and I put someone in it who
Mhm.
has less sense probably than an ant, right? And I say that with the deepest of respect because you gotta have kahunas the size, I don't know, King Kong's kahunas if you want to say it, to sit down inside something like that and think that you're gonna fly around without anything going wrong. You, Alana, have the experience of flying for years, right? Every day, I'm sure that you know something can go wrong, right?
Yep.
And that pucker factor, when your ass muscle is so tight, right? You you know what the ramifications are going to be if that person, not just in the aircraft, is flying over a community center
Yeah.
or anything like that and crashes. I mean, I'm looking at it from the negative, I guess, because I always look at the risk assessment. And don't tell me about parachutes and all that crap, because a parachute is only as good as how high you can deploy it for the effective slowing down of the unit. So if I'm doing 55 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour in a forward motion at 50 feet, and I deploy a parachute, it ain't worth crap.
Mm. Yeah.
So I'm worried. I'm worried for that. Now, that is for a person in a unit flying wherever they want to go. The way I see those units working is that it's going to be like traffic. They are
Hmm.
going to be highways set up in the airspace where 90% of the flying is going to be autonomous from A to B on a particular route.
Right.
Because more and more that you have in the air, the higher the air traffic, the greater risk of problems.
And we saw
Air
that
to
too. There
air
was
or
a
ground to air.
Yeah, we saw that the other day with the drone show in China where there was a crash of two of the same type of vehicles.
There you
And that
go.
was a controlled space. But somebody had to be the first, somebody had to take the leap to do it, otherwise you'll never get there. And there's no reason why, accidents always happen. And an accident in that space would be catastrophic. But somebody had to go first.
My name is David Lewis. I am not the Wright brothers. Okay. When men tell me men tell me years before when they were pioneering um, aerial videography and cinematography and hanging themselves out of a helicopter, I tell them,
Yeah.
boss, that's
Man,
your thing. That's your thing. Yeah, mine. I can sit down on the ground. I can sit down in a chair. I can have me a nice drink, non-alcoholic for the record, right?
right.
And I brazen. I could even have a fan blowing on me. If I want that immersion, I can put on a pair of goggles, have a VO, and I good. I do
Yep.
not need to hang out of an aircraft anymore, right? So why, if it's a mode of transportation that is required,
Hmm.
I good for it, and I understand that they're pioneers, and I'm good. I'm glad for them. I just don't know yet how they're going to fit in to, and I'm going to use this here, our airspace, because it's
Yeah.
no longer fixed wing aircraft, manned aircraft. It is the unmanned aircraft. And we've been looking again at a multi rotor. What happens when we start flying beyond visual line of sight?
Hmm.
Okay. That needs to come first, in my opinion, into our space so that then the third generation, as it were, of aircraft, which are these multi-rotor, two-person or single-person aircraft, can now come into our airspace and work within the whole industry synergistically. Okay.
Have you seen a Caribbean island that you would say, all right, cool. I could see them being the first to implement this comprehensively.
I would think it's probably, if I had to guess, it would probably be the Northern Islands, not probably not Barbados for sure. Um, I would say islands where you got to cross small distances over the sea, right?
Hmm.
Initially, where there's, well, again, where is there less air traffic,
Yeah.
right? What heights are they going to be operating at? Because if you want to fly one of them in Barbados and you want to be safe, you got to fly about, I would say 300, 3 to 400 to 600 feet. And that's not because of multi-rotor UAVs operating in the same space, because there are two things that a drone pilot hates in Barbados. One is stupid birds, right? And the other one, right, is kites.
Heights. Okay.
Kites.
Yeah.
Barbados has an extremely avid kite community. Thousands
Sure.
of
Okay.
kites are flown in Barbados, particularly between December and April, when our wind speeds are at its highest, right?
Okay.
So I wouldn't want to be the man flying around collecting koi cord.
Yeah. 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 Now, boy.
And that is one of my
Okay.
challenges when I look at beyond visual line of sight as well, because our
Mm-hmm.
cameras cannot detect
Height these
those
strings. Yeah.
the cord. We cannot,
Yeah.
right? So we have to work out ways and means of, yes, getting them into the airspace. It is the future. Um, whether it is multi-rotor or turbine driven or hydrogen pod driven, or just purely on electric, and we continue that way, fine. I'm good for it, but I don't see it in the short term. We still got to do things like in full scale aviation, all the cargo planes and stuff are going to be switched to to unmanned vehicles,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're looking at putting a center where you got 4 or 5 pilots sitting down in that center and operating 16 and 20 aircraft a day,
Yeah.
right? Basically, everything is automated. You just want to be there for the takeoff and landings. And now, um, the newest aircraft just put new technology on board that basically the aircraft when it lands the aircraft and then it taxis the aircraft too. Okay, so a pilot is sitting down there going, "Okay, I cool,
Yeah, you're supervising. Yeah.
just supervise it." But when the oh shit moment comes, I hope he has enough experience to be able to manage it.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
and that brings me back to one last thing, which is the ability for pilots for UAVs to operate a UAV without the autonomy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? When I do my level one course and everybody is doing fantastic and they've done their box drills and the figure eights and the elevated shots and everybody's happy and they can do them reversed and all sorts of wonderful things, right? And they feel as though they have accomplished. I say, y'all feel like y'all are pilots now? Yes. And then I say, bloop, turn off all the automation. Fly
Mm-hmm.
that same pattern now. Let me see you do it, right? Next thing you know, you got a little gust of wind.
And the
And my
breeze take
unit got
care.
down the road hard. Okay.
Yeah.
So what makes you a UAV accomplished UAV pilot? You have to ask yourself that.
Mm-hmm.
Many a time, I love teaching on the Phantom 4,
Oh yeah.
right?
RT mode to switch it in.
RT mode, bloop, switch off.
Yep.
Let me see you do it now. Go ahead. And for the ones that can hold stable, I said, good now. I want you to come and I want you to fly this particular pathway and I want you to go and take a picture. And then if they do it, then I go, I want you to fly this pathway and I will need a cinematic video, smooth cinematic video of this particular area. So all of a sudden now, you're not just using your fingers, you're looking at the wind speeds, the wind direction, how do you set up your unit? Those are accomplished pilots. They're the ones that know where they are in space and how to mitigate risk and take everything into consideration when there is no automation.
Yeah. Yeah, because the people that are accustomed to the second they don't have it, they usually don't know how to react to it. It's like well, before DJI got into FPV and people started to get into FPV and, somebody helped them put together the drone and you see them put on the goggles for the first time. And I had this experience
Oh yeah.
because before DJI, I started in FPV. So I started fully manual. You have to push a
Woof.
throttle and balance it and balance
Mhm.
it and bring. My first FPV flight, I ended up having to go and look for my drone in bush taller than me because it went up. I panicked and it hit the ground. I pushed the throttle and it just went.
Yep.
And I had to go and look for it.
Yep.
And I appreciate learning it that way because now no GPS, that's nothing. Because it's not like a FPV drone because the drone was at the very least it will still stay level.
Yeah. It's stay level.
Yeah. And FPV now once you tilt, that's it.
Gone. You know what was my first FPV experience? I am happy to say it was my son learning to fly FPV because if I if I look at a boat and you see too long, I get motion sickness. So right. Whereas my son, he's an accomplished pilot. He's 17 years old. He's enthusiastic. Zach, and he's a great teacher as well. You would not believe that a 17-year-old would be able to get people to understand certain concepts. But I guess as we get older, our ability to put over certain concepts um, with a youthful style is a little different. So he helps me from time to time, right?
Right.
And yeah, he's pretty good with that. So now that I've recently got the Avatar 2, right? I only now got my Avatar 2, but my Avatar 2 is set up for security. um, working with my one of my partners in Canada. We have
Okay.
outfitted it for um, police and defense force utilization and
Mm-hmm.
immersion. So you can something happens in a building, you can chuck it in the building and do whatever you want to do with a lot of stability within. And the lights are insane,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yeah. I've
um,
seen some
that's what,
kits.
yeah. So yeah, my son, he's gonna probably enjoy all of that and come up hopefully in the industry as we go ahead too. And that's the thing. I was telling you earlier about the succession of what we have as well. One of my as a pharmacist and as a drone pilot and as a drone pilot who operates very dangerous units, I worry when is that all of these youth are now on some substance or the other. It is a problem. The other day, I was asked to teach people uh, on an agro drone, and I said, "Okay, it's a process. I'm not going to teach them just to fly an agro drone. You got to go through the basics. When you conquer the basics, we'll do an
Mm-hmm.
intermediate for a couple of days, and then yes, for those who want to fly the large units, we'll go to that, right?" And I said, for that industry with those drones, there are two things I want. One is the police certificate of character, which
Right.
we always ask for. All of my students have to do a police certificate of character. What I teach, I can't unteach. All right. And the last thing I want is someone come in from civil aviation and police and defense force and telling me I'm teaching criminals.
Yeah.
I do that. And the other thing, as I said, for the drone industry within agro, with these large scale units, none of you can test positive for any substance. So I went from 14 pilots, potential pilots,
Mm-hmm.
to
Good. Wow. Wow. Jeez.
now. Alan, you do work in the petroleum industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you imagine, gosh, study that you on a site and you're doing your due diligence, your gas detection, and all of that, and a man pull up next to you with a joint, and he's one of your pilots.
Yeah. Well, we get tested often, so that's not even an option for us. And even some of the sites we work on, you have to provide up-to-date certificate of character. So it's not even like a one-off thing to gain access, and it's valid for 3 months. And if 3 months and one day, you got to go and get the next one.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you just brought up an interesting fact. Within specific industries, has specific requirements,
Mhm.
right? Again, if you could standardize those and share them with everybody, everybody would be the better because
Yeah.
now there's an expectation right through the whole industry,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So I think boiling down to it, we need to be a little bit more cohesive, networked, and that's why I really appreciate your podcast and what you're doing because it brings like minds together, right? I mean, I don't do drone shows, but I work with Alan from Luna Lake,
Yeah.
right? We do his logistics for him in Barbados, right? Which is a bloody nightmare.
Yeah. I've heard putting on a drone show is a hell of a carry.
Yeah, and I mean, and that in itself, it's a learning curve. It is,
Yeah.
and it's exposure for us Caribbean people. That when you see people come into our space and they're open to you being involved, grasp it, go with
Yep.
it, learn it. You may never be able to afford to offer the service, okay? But you have a greater appreciation for what it takes to put it on,
Yep.
okay?
Yeah.
First, like show we did in Barbados was 150 drones with another company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Alan comes along, and by chance, right, things weren't working out with the people that were bringing it, doing the logistics for him. So they called me, and then my man, we had to go through some real crap. I mean, the let's assume that the serial number is a 13-digit alphanumeric number, and the
Right.
alphanumeric number on each item is probably about 3 centimeters long.
Jeez.
We had to literally go and tick off every single number in relation to the log that was at customs.
How long did that take?
4.5 hours.
And they did
Okay,
everything, and they had to verify that this is what this is.
exactly. Every single one.
Oh,
All right.
yeah, but
And I mean, we learned from that last time, and then we did another show, and that was a little easier. But the timelines, if you tell certain offices that you have to do this show on Saturday at 9 o'clock at night, you'll be lucky if you'll get the permissions to get all the equipment out by Friday 4:30, just before everything closes, right? And in some cases, you'll get Saturday morning to have everything ready for Saturday night.
for Saturday
So,
night.
but it's getting better. It's getting smoother. People understand better. And that's all we can
Mhm.
hope for. We're coming into
Yeah.
a space that people are still learning. Things are happening, changing. The good is sometimes outweighed by the bad, but then you get sensible people in the right places and they say, no, you can't point fingers at these guys. These guys doing what they're supposed to, right?
Mhm.
And they're doing it the right way. So let's work with them. The others, well, we can't police them right now. Until we can police them, right? We're gonna put up with them. And hopefully one day one of them screws up big time and we can nail his ass to the wall.
Well, and that's something that happens a lot in
Right?
Trinidad that we really don't hear about, the enforcement side of it. So people, and you see people say it online in certain Facebook groups and that kind of thing. And nobody enforced this. Nobody could do me anything. But from what I've been told on the enforcement side, it happens a lot. We just don't. It just doesn't make the news a lot. So
Well, people are stupid. If you post in videos, I know who you are. If I
yeah,
know who you are, so does everybody else,
yep. And people love to post on social media.
right? Um, but I hope the future of drones in the Caribbean continues to be vibrant, right? I hope that we all work together. We are going to standardize. And the one thing, and it's unfortunate, that will bring us all together is if there's any major catastrophe within the space,
Mhm.
right? Because if I have a catastrophe in Barbados, I want to know that Trinidad has drone pilots that can come and help in the search and rescue or damage
Yeah.
assessment. And I want to know that their standards are the same as the standards within Barbados so that you can operate seamlessly in the airspace
Mhm.
and vice versa for the other the other territories. And we were
Yeah.
doing some of that actually as well. And as I said, while we were training in the other Caribbean islands, and I think I don't want to step out of place, but I think through Sedima,
Yeah.
um,
Yes.
that
I
is
heard about the initiative, the
right.
UAV initiative.
Yeah, I'm hoping that coming out of that, we will have that standardization, and through that standardization, we should have legislation that will help to govern us all on an even platform.
Yeah. So I saw, as a part of that project, I actually did get the opportunity to read some of the proposed documents, but I don't know where it has gotten since then. You have any idea where is that?
Um, I will have to say no, other than by now, all the drafts should be finished. I think that there was a deadline on it. I
Right.
think that by now there should be some final document, or it should be at least almost done.
Okay.
Right? I haven't seen any since it's preliminary. Um, I should say since the input that we gave as well.
Mhm.
Right?
Okay.
I'm not. I don't. I don't believe in fighting anybody. I'm not in that space. I just hope it's something that everybody can provide within the expertise, even within their own country. They shouldn't even have to go outside of anywhere
outside.
to be able to do that. The training and the requirements should be seamless for anyone who has been in the industry. And it's not difficult nowadays to write a syllabus that would meet the requirements. All right.
Yeah.
So you can teach, man. You have the experience that you could teach. I have the experience
I,
that you can teach. Once you can put over the information in correct methods and you cover the information and they pass the written and the practical proficiencies, why not? We
yeah.
need it, right?
We do.
And even
Yeah,
if
but I
you
think
don't
the
pass the proficiency, you can still use those people as VOs.
Mhm.
They may not be able to fly effectively to do a specific job, but they can fly in a safe manner to if something happens to the PIC that they're
Yeah.
able to bring the unit in and land. So they're still an effective part of the team.
Yep. Yeah, and a drone operation, a lot of people don't realize is not just the person with their hands on the controls. In some instances, you have a lot of things happening around that person that are just as if not even more important. Because when you're talking beaverless, you more or less set your mission and you have your units running. But now you have your sensor operator, you have your person who will be monitoring airspace traffic to look at other aircraft, and persons monitoring
Mhm.
weather and all the things that happening, not just the person with their hands on a control.
Exactly. And I mean, I've had a time where dust blew up into my face and I just could not continue. So my VO was there and they took over, right?
Yeah.
And and that's something that we really should consider when we're doing commercial work.
Hmm.
It should be mandatory, in my opinion, that you have a VO.
Yeah. And in,
'Cause-
in our operations, that's how we operate. We don't ever operate as a single person. We always have
Right.
at least two persons as a part of the operation.
Yeah. Man, we're growing by leaps and bounds. Our industry is growing by leaps and bounds. I am so like totally I'm fueled by what I'm seeing, right? And I'm happy that mm, some of that enthusiasm is being throttled because if not, we would go crazy, man. You know?
Next for Caribbean aerial photography and David Lewis.
I ain't stepping on toes, but I want to help the Caribbean be able to afford good quality UAVs. Okay. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we have some serious challenges coming, being pushed by the United States as it relates to the banning of all drones coming out of China,
Yep.
right? Or having any affiliation with China. So we as a Caribbean people, we gotta do what's good for us. We should not necessarily be followers, right? Um, the United States have their own interest. Okay, their in-house technology is behind 10 years. Okay, we in the Caribbean got to secure whatever technology we can have to benefit us and keep us ahead of the curve. We got to go for it. And all I want to do is have a space that people can call and say, hey, David, you know, I know you're a distributor or you're a service provider for this, and this. What can you do for me? And it be affordable, right? Because my man, some of the people that call themselves distributors, I'm not knocking them. They got to know what their overheads are. But I mean, if the distributors in the United States getting 5 and 10% as a markup, how do you
Mm-hmm.
expect to get a 50% markup on a product,
Yeah. Yeah, we have it up near too.
right? So affordable, and I want to see me operating or some form of operation within the legal framework to keep a sense of neutrality so that you're not pointing fingers all the time and being reactive. We're either going
Yeah.
to be proactive, or we're going to say, everybody makes mistakes. How do we learn from the mistakes, as opposed to knee jerk, let's just close this shit down? Because that's the
Yeah.
fastest thing Caribbean governments can do.
Yep.
So open up the minds of the youth is my goal right now. I've done seminars over the last year to schools, to the Barbados Cadet Corps. This last one here, um, at the construction conference, there was a whole bunch of tertiary educational students and candidates there, and they're all interested in new technology. Is the way it's going. So why not foster that interest in the right way, and let's have a future in the industry? That's where I
Yep.
see me. Okay, I can't. I am not a one person, like one subject person. I need several things to keep me busy. Right. So you know, I will work with anybody. I'm happy to work with anybody. Um, I sometimes ask when people say to me, David, why is your name also associated with being like, you know, you want to be the only one in the space? And I'm sure, Alan, you probably get this too, right? Um, I think that those people, when they look at what my team has achieved, okay, the only resentment that anybody could have is that they can't meet the standards of which we step,
I like that.
right? I don't, if my worst enemy asks me to borrow something, I will lend it. Okay. If someone has crashed their aircraft and they say, David, I really don't have parts to repair this and I got to do it for free because I
Mhm.
know that they are coming up in the industry, I'm happy to help.
Right.
Right. And I want to continue to do that. So if it is that David's name is Mud because, hey, I have standards, well, tough luck.
Nah, your name good. Your name
I ain't
good.
stopping that.
From everything I've heard, your name real good out here. Your name good.
Uh, I appreciate that.
Uh,
I love this industry. I love the creativity. I love the the whole future of it. And I have to say, with the advent of 3D printers and new technology, this is only going to get better and better and better, cheaper and more affordable and
mhm.
accessible to everyone.
Yeah, yeah, that is definitely true. And it's funny that you're not the first person that I've heard mention, directly 3D printing when it comes to drones and the components. And there was actually a company at Commercial UAV that had a fully 3D printed drone. Down to the propellers were 3D printed, and
Yeah.
there was very limited flex in it. And I still have a video to put out on that. I came back from when I came back sick. I was out for a week, and then I went straight into a project that we were off site for a week plus. So I have a lot of back stuff to put out, but it coming. But yeah, we're looking at the technology and where it's going, and 3D printing. It seems as though it will play a major part in the drone space coming up, and pretty soon actually, if it's not already right there.
It's already relevant in our space because of what we can afford.
Mhm.
So I think that's where the viability is. I mean, right now I'm playing around with Pill Fusion, which is an old thing, just taking pet bottle, old 2 liter pet bottles, and then taking and rendering it into a filament. There are pros and
Right.
cons to it, but my man, you can build out so many things, and it's not heavy material when you consider it if you do it right.
Hmm. Yeah,
So you know, this is where we're going.
it is. Right. David, on that note, well, we've been running for a little while, and I know you listen to the podcast and you watch the episodes, so you know the question that I have to ask you before I let you get out of here. What is the
Lay it on me.
one thing you wish you knew about the industry, the UAV industry, before getting into it?
How difficult customers can be.
Facts.
People come with preconceived concepts about what is achievable, right? And they do not appreciate all the factors that go into getting a particular image or a particular output because they're looking at the endpoint. They
Yeah.
want you to come down and they want you to zoom in they don't realize that let's say you're doing an FPV and you're getting that shot and they want that shot where the FPV comes in and the guy is about to hit the ball and hits the ball and then you follow the ball, those wonderful shots, right? And then they realize, holy shit, that man just came down at 150 miles an hour and he hit the golfer in the leg, and now the golfer's leg is broken. And when we as sensible pilots will go, yeah, we can do that, but we're gonna need maybe about 6 or 8 tries, maybe
Yeah.
a day, maybe 2 days practice. And we have to have the right person that's playing the golf because they know that they can't flinch and all these factors, right? And they're going like,
Yeah.
my man, I'm not paying you for 3 days. I just want this simple shot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, oh my god, here comes here comes house where all blood tests are back in 15 minutes, or you know, you come up with a diagnosis in 5 minutes, and it's the right diagnosis is something fantastic. Sorry, that's my medical
Yeah.
side, right? So, and managing these people. I mean, I had a situation where we were doing a one shot with the Inspire One, okay, and Daniel, the man is the boss. The woman who is paying for the shoot wants a one shot with this couple walking on a pathway.
Right.
And for whatever reason, she didn't like a position. Instead of her letting the shot finish or whatever, she walked out in front of the unit. So Daniel made a decision. Is it her or is it
Or
me?
the drone. Yeah.
No, I don't worry about the drone. The drone is not a problem, right? At the end of the day, it's only money.
Right.
But in a situation like that, it would be only her money. But what ended
Mm-hmm.
up happening is Daniel took the lash for her,
So that's all.
right?
He wasn't flying. He was walking in the shot as well.
No, he was flying. It's just where she decided. So there's a run up shot.
Ah. Okay.
Everybody is out of the shot, and she walked into it as the unit was coming along. And Daniel was
Ah.
on this
Okay.
side out of the shot and
So he had a
basically
pull.
pull it off. And I mean, it didn't hit him hard, but it clipped him enough to take three
Mhm.
nice zaps out of, and managing expectations
Yeah.
and the concept that some of these people have as clients, that has always been the challenge. That's the cinematography part for
Yeah.
sure, hands down.
Yeah, I've had some experiences like that, and people just see the end result, like you said, and they just think, "Hey, it's just this. This
Yeah,
is all I want," and they don't know about anything that went into making this.
exactly.
Yeah,
In pharmacy, pharmacists are just to take the medicine off the shelf and give it to the patient.
yeah,
It don't work
yeah,
so.
yeah.
It don't work
Yeah.
so. Again, I borrow from another industry, but my mind, yeah, I would say definitely 100% managing clients' expectations.
Yeah. David, thank you very much for joining me on this episode. How could persons get in touch with you, reach out to you, find out about the training, all the work that you're doing?
Actually, very easy. You can WhatsApp me. My Barbados number is area code 246-264-5617. Please reach out to me in WhatsApp. In which case I can then also pass on our email address. Unfortunately, my email address is very long. It's caribaerialphotography@gmail.com. Do not look for us on a website. There ain't none, as I said, but we are on Instagram as Caribbean underscore aerial underscore photography. All right. Um, I don't, as I said earlier, I don't like to publish a whole bunch of stuff because one, and again, and this is just by the by, a lot of work that you do for your clients, you would like to be able to use for your own promotion. But I don't like doing that because the uniqueness of their imaging really should belong to them. I retain the intellectual property, and actually, that's a different topic that I think you should bring a whole bunch of people in to talk about
Yeah.
intellectual
Yeah.
property, right? But predominantly, I believe that my client's work is my client's work, and I don't really use it for my own promotion.
Understood. So we'll have all the links and the details that you just laid out. So if anybody doesn't remember it, I'll have it in the description for this video on this episode. Anything else before I let you go?
All the people in the Caribbean, let's work together. I am a
Nice.
Bajan, you're a Trini, the Jamaican, the Lucian, the everybody. Let's get a standard. Let's work towards a future where all of us can work together on an even playing field and show the world that we in the Caribbean are professional and we can go anywhere and do the and get the best work done for our clients. That would be it.
Nice. I love that message. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. David Lewis. Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
very much.